Welcome to A Line Through Time, where I take the time to look through your favourite franchises and work out how it all lines up. It truly baffles me that Kratos is basically Sony's mascot at this point, considering that he's one of the worst protagonists ever. I mean, an absolute piece of shit protagonist can work, but the story has to acknowledge what a dick they are, and ideally they need to realise this and change, especially if we're expected to sympathise and play as them. Just take Sony Santa Monica's God of War 2005 for example. Yes, we have to call it that now. While a violent psychopath makes perfect sense as the protagonist of a violent hack and slash game, Kratos' motivation and justification are iffy to say the least. Kratos is a Spartan warrior who becomes a servant of Ares in return for the God of War saving him in a battle as if he was the goddamn Scorpion King. Later, for reasons that continue to elude me, Ares sends Kratos to kill some people in one of Athena's temples and he starts swinging his chain blades around in a steamy room where he can't see more than a foot in front of himself, accidentally murdering his wife and daughter, whose ashes are then fused to his flesh and start crawling in his fucking skin. Kratos naturally refuses to take responsibility for his actions and just blames Ares. He then kills Ares and becomes a new God of War, having learned absolutely nothing. While this setup could have made Kratos an amazing antagonist, 2007's God of War 2 instead brought Kratos back as the protagonist with even less justification for his actions. As the God of War, Kratos goes around causing massive destruction for no real reason. Zeus takes his powers away and kills him, so Kratos gets in a strop and goes for revenge. After Kratos goes back in time to his death and turns the tables on Zeus, Athena sacrifices herself to save Zeus because the Greek gods are kind of important for the world to continue to function. She reveals that Kratos is Zeus' son because nothing makes a Greek mythology themed character less interesting than having them be a demigod, especially a child of Zeus. Kratos goes back in time to recruit the Titans before Zeus defeated them to lead them into battle on Olympus. Before the trilogy was wrapped up, two smaller scale titles would release. 3 months after 2, God of War Betrayal released on mobile. It follows Kratos between the PS2 entries in a filler story where he is framed for murder and pursues the true culprit. I've read that it's non-canon but without any sources to back that up, so I'll just assume that it actually is canon. The following year, Ready at Dawn's God of War Chains of Olympus released on the PSP. It's an admittedly very impressive title, not feeling particularly scaled down as portable titles that try to retain the series' core gameplay often do. It takes place during the decade of Kratos' service to the gods between killing his family and the first game. Kratos is on a quest to find the missing Helios, who is abducted by Persephone. Kratos kills her, giving up his one chance to have his daughter back for the sake of mankind, because apparently Ready at Dawn were under the impression that Kratos was actually a human being with more than one emotion. Still, points for trying. 2010 was a busy year for the franchise. The core trilogy concluded in March with God of War 3 on the PS3, which opens with Kratos getting knocked off Olympus and being abandoned by the Titans as he falls into the underworld. With help from the spirit of the turncoat Athena, Kratos plows through most of the remaining gods and Titans, causing, among other things, flood, plague and eternal night across Greece. After forgiving himself and killing Zeus, Kratos impales himself to restore hope to the world because that was inside him since he opened Pandora's box in the first game, and that act also corrupted the gods or something. The desperation to justify Kratos' actions is palpable. After the credits, Kratos is implied to have survived, setting the stage for a fourth main entry. Series creator David Jaffe had a really whacked out idea for the plot before he left the company. Kratos would kill Zeus in the opening boss fight and then, get this, he'd be forced to fight the gods of Greek, Egyptian and Norse mythology, eventually killing them all and then himself to be reunited with his family in the underworld, ending with the three wise men following the North Star. As beautifully insane as that idea is, it's probably for the best that this version never happened. To coincide with the game's release, Wildstorm and DC produced a 6-issue miniseries titled God of War. It details Kratos' quest to retrieve Ambrosia to save his daughter when he was a simple Spartan soldier, and the present-day ramifications of this adventure sometime after the first game. Ready at Dawn's second title, Ghost of Sparta, released in November, detailing Kratos' Devil May Cry 3-esque history with his brother Deimos. Deimos was abducted as a child by Ares, who believed he was the marked warrior of destiny who would end Olympus, because prophecies are always a great plot device apparently. Kratos then marks himself after his brother's birthmark, ensuring that his destiny would come true. Deimos is merely imprisoned by Ares and tortured by Thanatos rather than killed, until Kratos saves him in between the first two games, probably after the comic because the attempted resurrection of Ares would presumably happen shortly after the first game. Deimos is killed by Thanatos, who is then killed by Kratos, and that's it really. I think Ready at Dawn did a generally better job of humanizing Kratos than Santa Monica did, which I think the latter then tried way too hard to rectify. In 2013, Santa Monica's God of War Ascension released on the PS3, taking place shortly after Kratos killed his family and ending with his 10-year service to the gods beginning. The enemies this time are the Furies, because they'd basically run out of figures of Greek myth for Kratos to violently murder, proving that the Greek setting was well and truly spent. A digital prequel comic, Rise of the Warrior, released prior to the game and is set as such, following an unnamed warrior to set up the game's multiplayer. Yes, they put multiplayer into God of War. No, I don't know why either. And finally, 2018's God of War, 2018. As you can tell from the title, it's a soft reboot, meaning direct sequel in a new place, because after ruining Greece, Kratos fucked off to Norse land to try and calm the fuck down. All you need to know about the plot for now is that it follows Kratos and his new son Atreus in a much more story-driven experience that completely uproots the core appeal of the franchise. The game was accompanied by God of War: A Call from the Wilds, a text-based Facebook prequel about Atreus' first hunting quest. Dark Horse's God of War 0 is a prequel comic about Kratos prior to the reboot. I can't find any info about it online, so I'll just assume that it comes prior to the Facebook game. Drop out now if you want to avoid spoilers, but for the rest of us, the God of War timeline goes a little something like this. Kratos of Sparta is born to Callisto and Zeus. He is prophesied to be the one to bring ruin to Olympus. Ares abducts his brother Deimos, believing him to be the marked warrior. Kratos joins the Spartan army and marries Lysandra. The two produce a daughter named Calliope. Kratos undertakes a quest to retrieve ambrosia to save Calliope from the plague. He obtains the ambrosia and saves his daughter. He gives the remaining ambrosia to the king of Sparta and is promoted to captain. Kratos leads an army into battle with the barbarian king. Kratos implores Ares for aid, vowing to serve the god of war in return for power. Kratos wins the battle and enters into Ares' service. Ares tricks Kratos into killing Lysandra and Calliope in a temple of Athena. Kratos swears revenge on Ares and breaks his oath, for which he is imprisoned by the three Furies. After escaping and killing the Furies, Kratos pledges to serve the gods to absolve himself of his sins. Kratos assists in finding Helios when he is abducted by Persephone. He kills Persephone, sacrificing his chance to be reunited with Calliope. After 10 years of service, Kratos sets out to kill Ares. Through opening Pandora's box, Kratos succeeds, becoming the new god of war. Unbeknownst to him, the gods become corrupted by this act, and Kratos is infused with hope. Kratos destroys the remaining ambrosia to prevent the resurrection of Ares. Before dying, Callisto encourages Kratos to travel to the domain of death to save Deimos. Kratos finds his brother, but Deimos is killed by Thanatos. Kratos kills Thanatos in revenge. The gods begin to grow wary of Kratos' actions. Kratos is framed for the murder of Argos, but the true assassin escapes. Kratos joins the Spartan army's assault of Rhodes, where Zeus tricks him into draining his godly powers into the blade of Olympus and kills him with it. After escaping the underworld, Kratos returns to the moment of his death and turns the tables on Zeus. Athena sacrifices herself to save Zeus, who escapes to Olympus. Kratos fights his way through the remaining gods and titans, eventually slaying Zeus himself. Kratos impales himself with the blade of Olympus to restore hope to mankind, and exiles himself to Midgard, where he settles down with a woman named Faye and produces a son named Atreus. After Faye's death, Kratos and Atreus travel to the highest peak of the Nine Realms to spread her ashes. Along the way, they are confronted by various Norse gods, killing some of them. Kratos learns that Ragnarok is coming and that Atreus, named Loki by his mother, will play a key part. I still remember how the early trickle of information about the new game first reached me. It went like this: New God of War. Boring. It's based on Norse mythology. Go on. It still stars Kratos. Okay, see ya. It's a reboot. It's a new Kratos then. Tell me more. It's a soft reboot with the same Kratos. Fuck off. And then the gameplay looked awful and they callously recast Kratos, who had always been played by Terrence Carson but now by Christopher Judge. Sure, for me it's hardly on the level of losing TJ Rotolo or David Hayter, but playing the character in God of War 1, 2, 3, Chains, Ghost, Ascension, PS All-Star, Soul Calibur and Mortal Kombat shows a dedication to the role that you don't often see in English language voice actors. The man deserves better than this. And don't even get me started on the suspiciously perfect reviews the game got before release. I think we may need a French Revolution in the game journal scene. But enough of my ranting. God of War is dead. Good night, everybody. If you like this video, why not subscribe and check out some of these other videos? If not, then make sure to share it with your enemies so they can suffer along with you. Wait, if Kratos' family's ashes are on his whole body, then did he fuck his new wife with his ex-wife's ashes on his dick?
By the gods!
Oh yeah, and his sister too.